Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Um, Thank you very much for coming to uh, course 3 on applied meditation, class 2. I'm so happy to see you all. And I hope you had a great couple days of meditating on the 6 preliminary practices. So let's take a moment and set our motivation for being here this morning. Or this afternoon or this evening. Try to feel it in your heart as an emotion. And then let's do these prayers thinking that uh, it is the Buddha, that his teachings and the Dharma, those who have realized those teachings, that give us the protection, the shelter that will allow us to realize our highest goals. Sangye Churan Soki Chuknam La Changchu Partu Dakni Kapsu Chi Daki Jinso Kipe Sunam Ki Chola Benchir Sangye Tufar Sangye Churan Soki Chuknam La Changchu Bardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Jinso Kipe Sunam Ki Jola Benchir Sangye Tuparsho Sangye Churan Soki Chuknam Lam Changchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jinso Kipe Sunam Ki Drola Benchir Sangye Duparsho. Sashi Buki Jukshin Meto Tram Rira Blingshin Yende Gampadi Sangye Shingdu Mite Oargi Drokun Namdak Shingla Chuparsho Sashi Puki Chukshin Metok Tram Rira Blingshin Yende Gampadi Sangye Shingdu Mikte Owargi Drokun Namdak Shingla Juparsho. Sashi Puki Jukshin Metokto Rira Blingshin Yende Gyempati Sangye Shingdu Mikte Owargi Dokun Namdak Shingla Chuparsho Idam Guru Ratamandalakam Niryatayami. So did anyone have any, before we go on, did anyone have any questions remaining from our last class? Perfect students. Okay, cool. Really clear in the last class. Excellent. Thank you, Karin.
Понял, понял. Теперь будем готовить вопросы, да.
We understood everything, and we will be getting ready to give answers.
Understand that, but if there's someone who could translate.
We understood everything, and now we will be ready to give answers. Я перевожу, она, кажется, не слышит меня.
I can try to translate. Do you hear me, Utpala?
Maybe that was a translator. Okay.
Do you hear me now?
Let's move on to the second class. And today we're going to continue on talking in a little more detail about the 6 preliminary practices. And also the 7 ingredients, which are a part of the 5th of the 6 preliminary practices. So just as a way of reminder, the book that we're using for our source in this course is Jetson Kappa's Lamrim Chenmo, great book on the steps on the path to enlightenment. And Jetson Kappa was with us 1357 to 1419. And as you take more and more of these classes, those dates will be, you will know those dates. They will stick with you. And if you're visiting a fellow student of these courses and they've got a secret code on their home, for example, it's probably one of these numbers. Okay, so within Jetson Kappa's book, Lamrim Chenmo, it has a very, he gives a short commentary on this prayer, Sangpo Chupe Munlam Ki Kyalpo. And this is, sometimes it's known as the King of Prayers, but it's the prayers of Samantabhadra. And if you remember last time I was talking about how he just like exploded all of his offerings and he made like duplications of himself to make offerings. It's a very beautiful prayer. Geshe Michael also relied on Liberation Thrust into the Palm of Your Hands by Pabonka Rinpoche. Geshe Michael's teacher went to teachings with Pabonka Rinpoche. So we have of the people that we usually study their writings of, we have a particularly close connection to Pabonka Rinpoche. And Pabonka Rinpoche gave a 21-day lecture on the Lamrim Chenmo. And it's an extraordinary work, really beautiful. And we'll go to that or Geshe Michael went to that for when he taught this course to fill in the details of the 6 preliminaries. So, was everyone able to memorize the 6 perfections or the 6 preliminary practices? I see that Laura asked, I just finally got the chat open again. And Laura asked if we could get into preliminary number 4, and we will as part of today, okay? So yes, thank you, Mana. The first preliminary is to clean up our room or clean up this space. When I did my first long retreat, which was 3 months long, I did it with a group of people, and we each had like jobs to serve others on the retreat, and my job was to get up early and clean the room where we all gathered to meditate together. So I have a whenever I think about this preliminary, I have a very strong positive association with this practice. I found it so helpful to me in retreat to have set the stage, to have cleaned everything and prepared everything. Remove all obstacles from everyone's meditations. They say that the act of cleaning a holy place, so like if you have a meditation room or an altar set up, or if you've been to teachings at a temple, or if you visited your teacher's home, even, the act of cleaning a holy place creates the causes for your Buddha paradise. So you can think about that every morning, or whenever it is that you do your meditation practice. You can think that you are creating the causes for your own Buddha paradise. And as we do this, as we make this a habit or a practice, our mind starts to get more orderly. The second one, the second of the 6 preliminary practices, does anyone remember what chupa means? offerings. Thank you, Laura. So the traditional offerings that this is speaking about are they're the ones you do physically, and you put them on your altar if you have one. And there are traditionally 7 bowls that you fill with water and set out in a particular way on your altar. These 7 offerings they come from ancient India, and they were the traditional offerings that someone would make if the king had come to call on their home. So you would greet the king, and then you would make these offerings to him, usually him, right? One by one. So it's nice if you can have a set of water bowls. And we do water because we want to be able to offer without having any hint of attachment, our own personal attachment to what we're offering. And we can talk more about that after we talk about these 7. So the method for laying out these offerings physically is that you have a stack of 7 water bowls in your hand, or you could have them on a small table next to your altar. I used to have like a very small folding table, like this big, that I would have my water and my bowls and a cloth. So you'd be taking your bowls off the altar from yesterday's meditation session and wiping them clean and then stacking them. And then you pour water into the top bowl and fill it up pretty well. And then you lift that bowl up, pour most of the water into the second bowl, and then place that bowl that has just a little bit of water in it to your left on the altar. And then you take the second bowl that has, almost full, but not quite. Pour most of it into the third bowl and place it next to the first bowl on your altar to the right of that bowl. And you put it like this close, not touching, but very close. And as you set them down, you line them up in a straight line. So traditionally, this is not the time to be like creative with having them placed in different designs, but to have it nice and straight and evenly distributed across the front of your altar. And then you continue pouring the liquid from the third bowl, most of it, into the fourth and placing it down. And you do that with all 7. Because you've had enough water, then you'll get to the 7th one and there's just a little bit of water in there left. So once you have them all placed, with a little bit of water. It's very good to not make an offering unless there's actually something, or not to put something on your altar that has something in it. So you wouldn't put down empty water bowls and then fill them. Because by putting that bowl on your altar, you are making an offering. You have a representation of the Buddha on your altar, or of your teacher. In your mind, as you're doing this practice, you're imagining that it's not just a picture, but it's that they are here. You are in their presence. So you wouldn't give them an empty glass. You would give them a glass with a little something in it. So then as you go to fill up your water bowls, you again start from the left and fill it. I've seen some people, they fill it to where, you know how water has this, what do they call it? This tension where you can fill it so where it's actually like above the rim of the water bowl. You don't have to go that high, but make it very full and fill each one. Now, as you're filling them, you're thinking about what it is you're offering to the Buddha, to your teacher, that your heart teacher. So the first bowl, it's argham in Sanskrit, and this represents water for drinking. And that's typically, like, that's our tradition when people come to visit us anyway. Like, we offer them something to drink. The second offering is padyam in Sanskrit. And the root of this, pad, came into Latin as ped, and ped means foot, like the word pedestrian in English is one who travels on foot. So padyam is actually water for washing the feet. So if you had a high guest come to visit you, you would clean their feet, because at least in the old days, people would walk around without any shoes on, or even just sandals, and their feet would be very dirty. So you would clean them. And that seems to be like a tradition in the Pope, in the Catholic tradition, who just passed. He used to clean people's feet, people who came to visit him. It's an act of humility as well to touch the feet. The third bowl is dupe, which means flower. So in your mind, you can imagine you're offering a beautiful bloom, whatever your favorite flower bud is, or fully bloomed flower. So we've been making offerings to the senses. Water is the sense of taste, water for drinking, water for cleaning, for the sense of touch, And now with tukpe, the flower, it's an offering to the sense of smell and the sense of sight. The fourth bowl is called pupe in Sanskrit. And this represents incense. And you're offering that as a sense of smell as well. Then comes an offering of a lamp, aloke. In India, it would have been like clarified butter with a wick in it that you would light. It's rather an expensive, or it was rather an expensive thing. Butter probably is still relatively expensive. But it has a beautiful light, no waxy smell. So we're offering to the sense of sight. Then the sixth bowl is called gande in Sanskrit, and it means water mixed with some perfume. And in the ancient times, they would offer that as like a salve for the body. And so this is an offering to the sense of touch as well as the sense of smell. Then our seventh bowl is Nividya. Sometimes you hear this pronounced as nude. And it means fruit in Sanskrit. So you make some offering of fruit or food. And then there is an eighth offering, but we don't have a water bowl traditionally associated with it. And that's shabda, or music. If you have a bell, you can have that on your altar, and that would be your representation of music, an offering to the sense of hearing. So Tibetans traditionally offer water. I've also seen this done with rice. The first ones would be water. But in the second bowl, the fourth, before we go on, that fourth bowl, pupe, that's incense. So we've got water for drinking, water for washing the feet. We have flowers, incense, light, ointment, fruit, and music. So sometimes you can use, like with the first two, it would be water, but you could add a little drop of scent, like an essential oil or something, to the second bowl. And then use rice in the next ones and have an actual representation. So like for incense, for example, you could have sticks of incense in the bowl. For the fruit one, you could have a little piece of fruit. Like, I don't know, if it's a little bowl, probably a strawberry or something like that, or whatever a small fruit is where you live. But water is very easy. And we can really let our imagination go when we're using water as a representation for these offerings. So that when we're filling the bowl, we can imagine as beautiful a substance or as fragrant or as lovely sounding as possible when we make the offering. So the reason that we fill up the water bowls the way we did, by having the water go from one bowl into the next, into the next, into the next, is that represents the lineage of the teachings, from the Buddha down through the masters in ancient India, and for us in Tibet and into America and into our countries, or however it is that the teachings have come to us. And so we think about that as we distribute the water in this way. We place them close, but not touching, to represent that we are close with our teacher, but not too close. And there's something about the straight line, which Geshe Michael didn't talk about. And I'm trying to remember. I think it is like being in a line, in a flow, like our direction, even though in our practice over the years, we will be going up and down. There will be good days, there will be challenging days. But it's always going in a direction. Once we start this path, once we start practicing these teachings, we are going in a direction. So the tradition is that every evening we take the water bowls down. And this tradition comes from the Kadampas, who were the first Buddhist practitioners in Tibet. So they would take the offerings down, and you do it in the same way, where you take the first one off that's on your left, and then you would put that into a little container of some sort that you have off the altar. So that's, again, I have a little table, a little folding table that I use. So you empty the water bowl out and wipe it with a cloth to clean it, and then turn it upside down and put it back on the altar. Because again, you don't want to have an empty offering bowl on your altar. So you turn it upside down. Then you take the next one to the right, empty it, wipe it, and then lean it against the first one, and so on down the line. And then in the morning, when you go to prepare to make your offerings, you take the bowls off from your right, wipe them, put it down, take the next bowl, wipe it, put it down. So it's all about having everything be clean, because in your mind's eye, you are making these offerings to enlightened beings. And you want them to be as perfect and beautiful and clean as you can make them in your mind's eye. And by doing this with your body, you're just helping to reinforce that visualization. So by turning them over, emptying them and turning them over at night, it's a reminder that we could die in this night. There's no guarantee that, after I go to sleep, that I'm going to wake up again. And so this reminder, and it's like, it's a completion. In the event I have died, I've left nothing undone. The altar is set away perfectly. And then what do you do with this water that you've taken off? Tradition is to put it somewhere where animals can't walk on it, and people won't step on it. Like you wouldn't go pour it in the road. You wouldn't put it in your pet's water bowl. So you can feed it to a plant. If you have a plant, if you live in a city, it's a little more challenging, unless you have a plant. I would gather them together, like a few days worth, and then I would take it to a park and just water some. You put it up as high as you can. So like there are these big bushes in this park next to my house. So I would go there and pour it on top of the bushes. So this is all very ritualistic. There's a question here about whether we can use it for washing our face or for cooking. And traditionally, no. There's something about an offering that has been made, like we do have this tradition where if our teacher comes to our home, for example, and we make them an offering of something to eat, they'll usually not eat it all. Usually they leave some on the plate. And so there is a tradition of, after they have left, to then whoever was there when the teacher came, to share in eating their leftovers. And that's considered a blessing. But I've never heard of people using it for, to cook with. That definitely would not be within the tradition. But I don't know, maybe wiping it on the top of your head as a blessing, thinking of it that way. But traditionally, no, we wouldn't use it for ourselves. And this is, ritual may not be something that we're used to or that feels very comfortable, we wouldn't drink it either. We wouldn't give it for like this, what we've taken down from the remainders, the leftovers of the Buddhist feast of the senses. The tradition is, and there are different traditions. For these offerings, the tradition is that we don't consume them and we don't offer them again, because that would be like when you make an offering to someone, you want it to be new and like just for them. But I'm hesitating because there is a conflict in my mind. There is a practice. The Tibetan word for it is tsok, and it just means gathering, a gathering. So people come together and they bring food offerings and beverage offerings and also flowers and like all these different offerings, but as the different substances, and we make these bowls filled, stacked high with offerings on the altar, and we're making these offerings, and we ask all the Buddhists and Bodhisattvas to come, and we make these offerings to them. And then there's within that practice, we share it with teachers and monastics and lay people who are in the room. And we also share it with the local spirits outside. We take some out for them. So that's why I have this sort of struggle. Like with the water bowls we do every day, tradition says, no, we don't drink it. But when we do this big puja together and we bring, basically we're making the same offerings, but we do partake of the leftovers from after we have offered them to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So there we have it. My struggle is now your struggle. So, but throughout all of it is just to recall that the reason we're doing this is that we're exploring the possibility of getting out of suffering permanently. And we're exploring the possibility of becoming a being who can help all other people also get out of suffering. And so in this tradition of people doing these practices for over 2,000 years, this is what they do. And so, or this is what has been done, this is what has been passed down to us. So we can try it on and see how it works for us. Now, the third preliminary is posture, right? Taking our seat, but it was also going for refuge and generating bodhicitta. So the third of the preliminary practices has those three parts. So we've made our offerings, and there's a couple of things here that we'll talk about later that fit in our actual doing it of getting ready to meditate. But the way they've always been presented is not in order. So I'm going to keep up that tradition of not presenting them in order, and hopefully it won't be too confusing. It's not that confusing. So we sit down, we take our proper posture, and we are going to talk about this in more detail later on. But in the text, you'll see that Jetson Kappa quotes Master Asanga from his Levels of Listeners book. And some of you may be familiar if you come to any of the translation courses, because this book is quoted quite a bit by different teachers. So Arya Asanga, it says, press the two together. And what that means is to take a full lotus posture where the top of each foot rests on the opposite leg. Left first and right over on top of it. And this can be a very challenging position for people, particularly for me. There was a point where I could get into it, but it was, my knees were just like, felt like they were going to be, like the bottom part of my leg was going to be unscrewed at the knee. So I didn't stay in it for very long. You can do what's called a half lotus, which is where your left foot, the top of the foot rests on your right thigh, and then the right foot is just crossed, like if you were sitting cross-legged. That can also be challenging. The point is not to get ourselves into, like, the point is not that that's the only two possible postures to take in order to have a successful meditation. There are aspects of these postures that we can replicate in sitting in a chair, or using a bench, or sitting cross-legged with a cushion on the floor. So you can work with that. And the one thing to think about at the beginning is that it's good that you're leaning forward a little bit, that your bottom, like that your hips are higher than your legs, that there's a slight angle there. And for me personally, I use a bench. I find that to be the most comfortable position to hold. You can use a chair, which I did in 3-year retreat, because using a bench for 3 years was a little much. But so then I had, those yoga cushions, those really long ones. I used that in the right behind my lower back. So it like forced me to have a straight spine. And that's the important thing, is to have a straight spine. You don't want to lean back, and you actually don't want to lean forward, because then you might fall asleep. It's just your hips want to have that position. Your spine should be straight. So anyway, find a comfortable way to sit for whatever period of time that you're meditating. At the beginning, we're not meditating for very long, where it's not going to be so uncomfortable that that's all you think about. We don't want to have meditation sessions on pain. So we take our seat, and then we go for refuge. So if you've taken course 2, you know what the definition of refuge is. Is there anyone that can share that with us? Put all our hope. Yes, that's lovely. That's part of it. Going for refuge is a state of mind in which, of your own accord, you put all your hope into some other object to be of assistance to you. And it's based on 2 emotions. Fear and belief or trust. So, like, if we have any problems in our day-to-day life, we go and we look for help. Like, if there's a fire in our home and we're not able to put it out, we call the fire department. So out of fear and out of a belief that the fire department can help us, we call them. When we're a kid, and maybe even when we're an adult, and we're facing some problem, we run to mom or dad for help. Out of fear, we believe they can help us. The fear in Buddhist practice is the fear of death and the fear of what will happen after we die. And then the belief is that these teachings can help us. As Geshe Michael says, if we can get beyond death with these teachings. And throughout the day, every time we shift how we sit, or we clear our throat, or we take a sip of water, we're taking refuge in a way. We're looking for some comfort to get away from some discomfort. And we're doing that all day long. if we can think about, as we do this, because we're doing it all the time, mainly mindlessly. If we could think about when we have those movements, if we could think about, may I always remember the teachings so that I can get out of the cycle of suffering. That would be a nice habit. So it won't be just mindless activity. And then bodhicitta is the next one, or the wish to attain enlightenment in order to benefit all other beings. So as we sit on our cushion, where we are going for protection to the Buddha and the Buddhist teachings, and to those who have realized those teachings, and we're generating as strong as we can a wish to be of benefit to other beings. And even if it's not true bodhicitta, even if we have not realized bodhicitta yet, even to want to help others is very powerful, good karma. So even if you just think about it for a little bit, it can have a very powerful, positive effect on your meditation, and it plants a powerful, good seed. I think I'm maybe going too slow. I have to speed up. Okay, everyone put on your seatbelts. I have to go a little faster. So the fourth of the 6 preliminaries is when we visualize the lineage lamas from the Buddha on down through the ancient Indian masters through to our teacher. And we can visualize, if you have the ability, I know some people have amazing ability to visualize complex, detailed images. But if you can't do that, that's okay. You can visualize just your Lama, but as representing all these lineage of teachers from the Buddha down through your teacher. And even if you can't visualize your teacher perfectly, you can visualize their outline. It doesn't have to be perfectly clear and detailed. As we practice, visualizations become more distinct, more clear. So you can visualize the Buddha, you can visualize your teacher, your heart teacher, someone for whom you've got an emotional connection that well, here is someone that we're going to for protection, so we do feel this connection. We feel that they can help us. But we want to, in our visualization, we're doing this so that we can really feel that we are in their presence, that they are here with us. They're called a merit field because in the laws of karma, which are discussed in course 5, which is the next one I'll be teaching, things you do with certain people you can get stronger positive karma, good karma and bad, but stronger karma with, So, for example, helping an animal is a positive thing. Helping a human would be stronger merit, because a dog can't, or an animal can't get to enlightenment in this life. You need a human body to reach enlightenment. So a human, helping a human gives you, produces stronger karma. Hurting a human would also produce stronger negative karma than hurting an animal. So there's this sort of hierarchy of like strength of merit. And at the top of the list, so you can go up, there's your parents are very high, Buddhas are very high, Bodhisattvas are very high, and your heart teacher is the highest one, because they're the ones who is with you personally giving you the teachings that you need to reach enlightenment. So when you visualize your merit field, your teacher, visualize them in their most perfect, beautiful form. So if there's someone who is old, then you would visualize them as young, when they were younger. If they have some scar on their face or something, you would visualize it as being perfectly clear. In other words, you don't focus on defects. Their defects. You want to focus on their positive qualities. So you think of them when they were younger. Usually the prime age is age 16. So if you know what they look like when they were 16, that would be nice to think about. Okay. So someone had asked about clarification of this preliminary step, and has this discussion helped? Or do you have any other questions? Okay, great. And Svarna, if I have time, which I don't think I'm going to, I will talk about your question. But if not, we can talk about it in the Telegram chat. Okay? So the fifth preliminary, which is where I should have been spending most of our time today, is gathering good energy and purifying obstacles. So that's the fifth of the 6 preliminary practices. And this is where Samantabhadra's prayer comes in. The word munlam, that means prayer. And it's a very, very famous prayer. It's a very beautiful prayer. In my 3-month retreat, I recited this prayer every night. So this prayer has 7 parts to it. So within the 5th preliminary practice, there are 7 parts, and they're all about purifying obstacles and collecting positive energy. So the first of the 7 is called Chaksel, or Namas in Sanskrit, like when they say Namaste. It's prostration. Now, when I said before the things were a little out of order, so this is a mental prostration. In our mind, we are expressing reverence to our heart teacher. But before we sit down, we actually do a physical prostration. And the tradition, and if your tradition is different, and if what you're used to is different, continue to do that. If you don't have a tradition, you've never done a prostration, you want to do a prostration, the Tibetan tradition is that you put your hands together, your fingers are touching, and with your hands, they're not flat like this, but they're like this. It's together at the back, kind of looks like a lotus, I guess. And then your thumbs are bent inside. And this is to represent that, you're holding a wish-giving gem. And your teacher is to you a wish-giving gem, right? So your hands are like that. The 3-point prostration is you touch to the crown of your head, you touch to your lips, and then you touch to your heart. And this is, you are honoring the Buddha's body, speech, mind. You're also having a wish that that your mind could be, or that your body could be like the Buddha's body. No more pain, no more getting old, no more wrinkles. That your speech could be perfectly pure, only used to benefit others. And that your heart, your mind is filled with wisdom. You can do a 5-point prostration, which is you start from a standing position. You do these 3. Then you put your hands, 2 hands down. Tibetan tradition, you keep the fingers together, you don't spread them out. You put your hands down on the floor, a little above you. You put your 2 knees down, so that's 4. And then you put your head down on the floor. And that's a 5-point prostration. There's also a 7-point prostration, which is when you extend the 5 points. You push your hands forward and your whole body is down, covering the ground. And they say like you're wanting to cover as much earth as possible. And there's a lot of things to talk about that, but we don't have time. So prostration. So in our mind, we're thinking, not only do I have a reverence for the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, but I would like to have a Buddha's body, speech, and mind, a fully awakened body, speech, and mind. Tradition is you go down very slowly. You're being mindful of that, and even when you go down to the 5, hands on the floor, knees and head, but then you come up quickly. So you're imagining that when you do a standing prostration, you're imagining that you're going down to the hell realms to help beings, and then you're coming back very quickly. So we do a physical prostration before we sit down 3 times. And traditionally, you also do that after you get up at the end of your meditation session, and also at teaching. But with Geshe Michael, he does not have that tradition. But you will see it with other teachers in the Tibetan tradition. Okay, that was the first of the 7 ingredients of the 5th of the 6 preliminaries. Hopefully it's not too confusing. So the second of the 7 is offerings. And again, here we're making mental offerings. We're thinking about making offerings. So here, when we're thinking about them, again, we can make it as big and beautiful as we possibly can. The third of the 7 is Shakva. Does anyone know Shakpa? Yes, right, Karine. It's confession. So purify is very close. Our motivation is to purify, and we do that through confessing. So here, and this is very important. We think about something that we have done recently. We bring that to mind, and if you know the 4 powers of a purification practice, which I don't even have time to say them, but you do them in your mind. And they are in other courses. But it's important to think about something you've done that went against one of your vows, or in some way harmed, or even just disrupted someone else's peace, or whatever. Think about that and purify it. And then and then think about the good things you have done, some one good thing you have done, and that you saw someone else do, some one good thing you saw someone else do, and rejoice about that. Rejoice in the positive seeds that were planted and what the results will come from that. The 4th of the 7 is rejoicing, Yi Rongwa. And that is actually, I already was talking about that. That's when you think about something you have done that's positive, and something that others have done that's positive, and you rejoice in that. They say that if you rejoice in some good things that someone else has done, you get 10% of the karma as if you had done it yourself. So Like for me, well, it's really easy to think about and rejoice in things that Geshe Michael Roach does, because he does them all day long. And gosh, I'm creating oodles of good karma by doing that. So we can do that. That's very good. But if we think about the good things that we ourselves have done, sometime when you kept yourself from doing something that may have harmed someone else, or sometime that you remembered to look out and make sure that you're not stepping on a bug as you walk down the street. That's a very powerful, positive act. Watching, caring for others like that. And so rejoicing in our own good karma is a really powerful, positive act. And that's why in the 4 steps practice, the coffee meditation and all of that you end with rejoicing, because it really, it imbues a lot of power into the karma that you're creating. So that's Yirongwa, that's rejoicing. And plus it's fun to rejoice, right? It's like having a little party in your mind. The 5th of the 7 ingredients is Chukakorwa. This is asking our teacher to turn the wheel of Dharma. So there was a tradition in Buddhist time of him not teaching unless he was asked. So they made that a tradition for teachers in this lineage to not teach unless someone asks you to teach. In other words, these teachings aren't, we don't proselytize. We don't stand on a street corner and, oh, have you heard the good word of the Buddha? We don't speak, we don't teach people who don't want to hear it. We only teach those people who are interested to hear it. So that's what this part of the 7 ingredients is about. And so we ask them to please turn the wheel of Dharma. Please teach. And then the 6th of the 7 ingredients is requesting our teacher to stay. To stay with us, to never leave us. And the story is that when the Buddha passed, he passed because no one asked him to stay. So like with teaching, if we want our teacher, if we want the Buddhists to stay in our lives, we need to ask them. And if we think about this with emptiness, it only makes sense. We want to create the causes to have our teacher be in our lives and teaching us. And one of the causes is to want them to teach. I mean, certainly we share and we create those kinds of seeds of sharing what we know with others, but also we need to ask them to teach. We need to ask them to be with us. The seventh of the seventh ingredients is dedication. And that's where we direct the positive energy, the positive seeds that we're creating with these practices towards a goal. And when we consciously direct the karma we're creating towards a goal, it's sort of like, that's like locking it in. That's like, yeah, it's like locking it in. The karma won't be spent on more mundane things. So if we dedicate our karma towards benefiting all living beings, that's how it will be used eventually in the future. That's how it will ripen, is in us being able to benefit all living beings. So it's not going to ripen earlier as, you know, a nice shiny new car or something. So we dedicate our good deeds. Geshe Michael has a tradition of waiting to do this dedication at the end of our meditation session, not within the 7 ingredients, within the 6 preliminary practices. But I've also been taught that you can use this 7th ingredient in your preliminary practice to like dedicate the positive energy of what you've just done with these preliminary practices so far, direct it towards your meditation. May my meditation bring me all that I wish for. So in a way, you're dedicating it towards your highest goal, because you're dedicating it towards your meditation actually taking you there to your highest goal, if that makes sense. So there's a difference between Munlam and Loa, between a prayer and a dedication. We still have our hands in the same way for both prayers and dedications. But in prayers, it's like a wish. We wish something to happen. We pray that our teacher stays. We wish that they stay. We pray that our teacher teaches. We wish that they teach. We pray that everyone have good health. You know, may it be so. It's a wish. With a dedication, we are looking at specific karma seeds that we've planted, specific acts of body, speech, and mind that we've done, and we are directing, we are shooting them towards a goal, that they only ripen in that way. So that's how they're different. One is like you're wishing to see something. It kind of feels like it's a wish that you I don't know, never mind. That analogy is not going to work. Okay, so we finished the 7 ingredients, which means we finished the 5th of the 6 preliminary practices. And now the 6th preliminary practice is Sunda, which is another request. So we just had a request, right? In the 7 ingredients, we requested the teacher to teach. We requested the teacher to stay. And now we are requesting our root teacher, or the whole lineage, if we're visualizing them, we're requesting them to give us blessings. Jinlo. And we would like their blessing to be able to advance along the path. We would like their blessing to, gosh, you can ask for blessings in all kinds of ways, but make it as big as you can. Like, please bless me to be able to remember the teachings all day long. You know, may the teachings never leave my mind all day long. Please bless me that I be able to do that. Please bless me with the ability to be able to do that. Whenever you've got anything that's like challenging in your practice, ask for blessings to be able to deal with that challenge with the teaching. So there's a question on your homework about which of the 7 ingredients act to purify you, and which of the 7 are in collecting goodness, because that's what the 5th preliminary is about, right? Purifying and collecting goodness. So it's pretty easy. There's one that's about purification, and that's confession, shakpa. And then the rest of them, the other 6, are in collecting goodness. When you confess, if you have taken vows, you can, it's good to confess when you may have damaged or even broken a vow. And there are 3 types of vows in the Buddhist tradition. There's the vows of individual freedom, and that would be the monastic vows, or the layperson vows, or the one-day vows. There are the bodhisattva vows, which are the vows you take when you have the wish to become a Buddha in order to benefit all beings. These vows help you on that path. And then there are the secret vows, the tantric vows. Geshe Michael now calls them the vows of the diamond way. And those are the vows where you just frankly can't take it anymore. You don't want to spend 3 countless eons of having people suffer. Just, it's unacceptable. It must happen quickly. And so you take those vows, the secret vows. So you can use those vows. You can purify any tarnishing or harm to those vows that you may have done. Now, when your homework, or I should say your meditation and your memorization is about the 7 ingredients. And in your reading, if you've already started reading, which is good because it's the same reading for the first 2 classes, you will have noticed that there was an excerpt from the Ganden Lakyama the 1,000 angels of the heaven of bliss. And that prayer is what Geshe Michael asks us to use for doing the 7 ingredients. So he asks us to do these every day using that text. And to me, it's one of the most beautiful, beautiful translations that Geshe Michael has ever done. I love that prayer. So when you, just one last thing, and I'm sorry, I'm already over time. I will try and do this very, very quickly. So after you have finished your meditation session, you're still sitting on your seat. Before you open your eyes, you imagine that your teacher comes even closer to you. And as your teacher moves closer to you, they're shrinking down, 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 tiny, 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 tiny. And they come and they sit at the very crown of your head, facing the same direction as you, teeny tiny now. And you imagine that they come down through your central channel and they come and they sit at your heart. And they're there with you all day. You can bring them to mind throughout the day. Let's do a quick dedication. I will be known as Utpala, who always teaches too long. So now let's lock in the positive seeds we have created in this class. Let's lock them in to our highest goal. Kewati kewokun sunam yeshe tsoksokshin sunam yeshe lechungwei tampar kunyi topar sho. Thank you very much for your patience with me. Thank you very much for your interest in the.
翻墙出去听课，现在
Thank you very much for
买
your
还跟国内的玩，我听 ACI 去。
Благодарю, Utpala.
the live translators. Thank you all the ACI
Конечно, благодарю.
volunteers.
Всех благодарю.
Thank you, Zoom, for making this program freely available so we could all meet together across the globe. Thank you, Geshe Michael, for creating these courses. And thank you for allowing me, for pretending to be someone who needs these teachings so that I can create the karma of sharing the Dharma with you who already know. Thank you, thank you. And I'll see you on next Wednesday, Arizona time. And I see that there were some questions in the chat. So please, let's use Telegram. We can use Telegram and discuss any questions there, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, teacher.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you, teacher.
You, teacher.
Thank you, teacher. Please stay so long.
Bye bye.